So crazy stuff is happening in the world of Football Manager. Now, I was initially not going to make this video. Quite honestly, I didn't care enough. The Football Manager the Football Manager 25 announcement, they changed the way they name it. It's not Football Manager 2025, it's Football Manager 25. You can see it right here. This is the beginning screen of the announcement trailer. But yeah, the announcement trailer came out and Football Manager 25's up for pre-order, and I just didn't care enough. It didn't move me at all, and I didn't really feel like making a video. We talked about it at the beginning of stream and stuff, and I shared some thoughts on it and everything, but I didn't really care enough to make a video, and I didn't think there was enough substance there for me to sit there and make an entire video about it. But over the past couple of days, I've read everybody's response to the announcement of FM25, and I decided to do a little investigating, right? Because I'm curious to know, because I went into FM25 in the beginning of this cycle very excited, right? The moment they told me that the whole thing was going to be moving to the Unity engine, which if you didn't know, FM25 is going to be moving into the Unity engine. They're not going to have to create their own graphics engine anymore. That means that, the graphics engine's got the capability to be so much better. Right? The moment I found that out, I was so excited. How did I go from that to now? I think the right word for me is nervous. Right? Because I'm going to play the game regardless. I have a pathological addiction to Football Manager. I will be there. I will be playing it. But I am nervous that it is not going to be good. And I am getting more and more nervous the more they don't announce what is in the actual game. Okay, other than the fact that women are in the game, right, that they've added the women's league to the game, which they announced years ago would be coming this year. So that is not a new revelation. That is, in fact, an older revelation than the fact that the game is moving to Unity. Right? Like it is a Neolithic Stone Age revelation that women's football is finally coming to the game. It is nothing new at all. I could have told you that years ago. We don't really know anything else except for a few incredibly kind of parsed apart screenshots of the actual gameplay. There's a couple of those. I'll show you those at some point in this video. But reading everybody's reaction, I was trying to diagnose why exactly I feel nervous, why everybody else seems to. I mean, the people on the Football Manager Reddit, for example, they're losing their minds, right? There's kind of this community meltdown going on over what's happening, and I wanted to figure out why. And I think I have figured it out. There's a couple of things that go into this. First, look at the date on the trailer, right? This came out September 30th, 2024. My investigation went back 5 years. I decided to look and watch the 5 previous trailers for Football Manager, announcement trailers, right? And most of them are just fluff and nonsense. And what I was hoping for was maybe every other trailer had a lot of gameplay features. They don't. The only one that actually does show off gameplay features in any significant way is actually the announcement trailer from last year. In the announcement trailer from 2024, they show you different things like the training screen. They show you this screen here where you're looking at different tactical stuff. They show you all sorts of things, right? This whole last 30 seconds of the promo, which, by the way, this is super totally not in the announcement trailer for this year. They show you absolutely nothing. They show you all sorts of stuff, interfaces from the game and different things. I can't remember, honestly, whether any of this stuff was new to FM24 or not, but they show you parts of the game. They show you the game, right, in the announcement trailer. The other announcement trailers didn't do that. But then I saw the date, 12th of September, 2023. And then I realized that I might be looking at the wrong thing here. Football Manager's release announcement trailer, 8th of September, 2022. This is for FM23, right? And there's nothing of note in this announcement trailer. It's the same, they picked a different the direction for this one was, look at how many people played the game last year, right? The FM22 announcement trailer, the 9th of September, 2021. That's when that announcement trailer was released. FM21's release, September 24th, 2020. That is still a full week earlier than the Football Manager 25 announcement trailer. And they had to make this game in the peak of COVID. So everything was delayed. The fact that they managed to get a game out at all is kind of impressive, right? And it's not surprising that it was delayed somewhat because of COVID. And I think I remember at the time, even though this feels like 30 years ago, that they were talking about that in their dev blogs and stuff, that they had to take they took all these separate measures to be able to get a game out during COVID. Well, they still got it out before the trailer for FM25. And then you go back to FM 2020, the announcement trailer that came out in 2019, right? And this was, you know, the usual fluff, which I'm not going to blame them for dropping the usual fluff in an announcement trailer. It's just supposed to build hype, right? But this was the 27th of August. This was a whole month before the announcement trailer came out for this game. That is a not insignificant amount of time. That is a difference between where FM25 is and where FM20 was in terms of when it was going to get released. I mean, at this point, you know, the way that things being delayed, right? It feels like we're headed to where the game's just going to start getting released in December. I mean, it's almost going to be released in December. The announced release date for Football Manager 25 is November 26th. And what is particularly remarkable is you have to think about what we are supposed to know about the game. Not what we were supposed to know, maybe that's the wrong wording, but what we would expect to know about the game going into, I don't know, October. Well, if the announcement trailer happens a month earlier, we're getting a lot more information by the time we get to October, right? Now, of course, every time they do these announcement trailers, they open up pre-ordering. I always think pre-ordering is stupid. Why would you pre-order, right? You have idiots like me that are going to have the game regardless. I'm going to play it. I'm going to, you know, do a first look at the game, and you can watch that and then decide if you want it. I'm not the only person that's going to do that either. If you're really anti-forehead, right? You'll have other people that you'll be able to watch play Football Manager, and then you can decide whether you're going to get it or not. If you pre-order based off a couple screenshots, then you need to call the number, right? Like that's what I'm saying. You know, I need to call the number, right? But I managed to turn that addiction into a job. You know, if you're pre-ordering based off a couple screenshots, you need to call the number, right? There's no reason to pre-order after any of these announcement trailers, so that's not new on FM25, right? I think pre-ordering games based off so little information is stupid. Now, if you see a bunch of features get announced and you're like, oh, sick, love that, then yeah, pre-order, dude. Do it. Sounds good. I'm not your dad. You do whatever you want, right? But because the announcement trailer is happening on the last day of September, we're entering October with literally no information about the game. And I would argue this is the most important point, like for this game in particular. Because let's be honest, Football Manager over the last couple of years, it didn't change a ton. Right? The whole yearly sports games, they change incrementally. Sometimes jumps are bigger than others. I like FM24 a lot more than FM23, right? FM23 was not that good. 22 was pretty solid, but they had the whole long throw issue, and that was fun on the streamer showdowns and everything where you could score goal. You just put Virgil van Dijk up for long throws, and he would be heading every other one into the back of the net. It felt like it was absolute chaos, and there's always some weird stuff like that. But Football Manager improved incrementally over the last couple of years. So, you know, the gameplay features that were being announced were much less important than the gameplay features that will be announced around this game, especially when the only thing we've gotten from the dev updates, which I appreciate that they're doing dev updates now. I remember a time where they didn't do that, right? And then they changed their approach and decided to write these dev blogs. Well, don't just give me stuff that you're removing from the game in the dev blogs. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do the dev blogs, give me some positive information. And if you don't have any positive information to give me in the dev blogs, that's just concerning. Right now, the stuff that's being removed from the game, like shouts, obviously that's going to take some getting used to. International management, hate that. I understand the logic of why they're removing it because I feel like it's not going to be ready for this year. But I hate the fact that it's not going to be in the game the first year that women's football is in the game, so I can't manage the only good U.S. national team. Right? That just feels mean. But that in a way carries me to my larger point. Football Manager is delayed more than it was during COVID. And that is on top of the fact that Football Manager 25 has been under construction for like 5 years. Right? I remember when Work the Space and I had a conversation. I think he sent me an image of they were hiring people with knowledge about how to code in Unity pre-pandemic. Before the pandemic, they were hiring people that had knowledge of working in Unity. That was in the job posting for SI, right? And so it was obvious that at some point they were looking at maybe moving to Unity, or they were at least exploring some sort of partnership with Unity that was going to help the game, right? So FM25, unlike all of the other games, has been under construction separately, kind of people working on the side, developing that game for a long time. Which means they didn't have to do it this year. They could have pushed it back one more year, right? And we could have had one more Football Manager that had the same kind of normal incremental improvement and one broken set piece thing that eventually gets patched. And we could have all gone on with our lives and had one more normal installment of Football Manager. before we launched ourselves into this FM25 thing, but we're now in a position where things are being removed from the game. We're entering October and we have no idea really what is in the game, which is later than any point in my living memory as somebody playing and making videos about Football Manager. And this is the game that everybody at SI and it is telling us is the transformative. This is FM 2.0. This is going into a new era. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. I'm not afraid of going into the new era. Having graphics that don't look like a mobile game from 2006 does not sound like a bad idea to me. Redesigning the UI to make it better does not sound like a bad idea to me. But I need to know something. And the longer that you don't know anything, the more it seems like there isn't anything to tell and that the game is not ready. And I think another great indication that they feel like the game is not ready is Work the Space astutely noticed, and somebody pointed out in my stream chat, there is no announcement of any beta or early access for the game. Typically, there were 2 or even 3 weeks of beta access if you pre-ordered the game, that you would be able to play the game, and it had a few bugs, but they just wanted mass players so that they could find those bugs and patch them. That was the point of the beta. There's no announcement of that now either. You couple that in with the fact that we still know nothing about the game, that the whole idea that the Unity engine is going to have this beautiful match engine, and we're not seeing a single visual from that. I mean, I'm not a hard guy to please. You guys are hard on me sometimes because I'm really not a hard guy to please, right? I'm pretty amenable. I leave most movies and go, that was pretty good. Except for the second Ant-Man, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. But most movies I leave, or TV shows, and I go, yeah, it was pretty good. I was entertained. Like, I'm not a hard guy to please here, right? I am not the overly pessimistic person that needs my 100-point checklist to be met. But I am also aware of the fact that I need to defer to people that actually work in game design here or have in the past. And that would be Work the Space. That would be Jack, right? In his discussions about this topic, right? If you are not showing any part of the game, then that just means it's not ready. Because if it was ready, right, and obviously the game's not out yet, it doesn't have to be fully ready, but parts of the game, if it was up to your standard, if you were happy about it, why would you not show it? What is any logical explanation to not show it? Because then you just end up with fools like me, sitting behind our cameras making videos about how we're nervous about the game. You end up with big Reddit threads, big tweet threads about how the game is not telling us really anything. Right? The whole point of transparency in the dev blogs and the roadmap and everything is for us to learn about the game. Well, now everything's been delayed and the dev blog is mostly like theory and, oh yeah, we're removing this from the game and this is why. Which again, I appreciate the window into that, but like, throw a dog a bone here. And then we get into the roadmap. The roadmap it starts with introducing women's football in the week of October 7th. Every other date is to be announced, right? If they were comfortable with the state of the game, in my opinion, they would announce the date of all, like the week that all of these were going to be announced. And they've also talked about how they're going to kind of live update the game, which I'm actually a proponent of, by the way. I feel like live updating the game's way better than having a yearly Football Manager game. They are still going to do that. They're just going to be rolling out updates over the course of the year. Not as DLCs, just as updates. If they turn into DLCs, that's a problem, right? But they're going to be producing more content that goes into the game over the course of the year, which works. Obviously, would love to have that content in the game at the beginning of the year. Can't always work like that. Although in this situation, if they had delayed, the integration to Unity an extra year, then they probably could have, right? Like this is a weird situation, but they're starting the Football Manager roadmap with the one thing we already knew was going to be in the game before we even knew it was going to be Unity, right? That is the umpteenth sign in this whole process. And that's the latest thing that I saw when I was breaking this whole thing down. I think it's great. Women are in the game, right? They used all the money that they've gotten from having it on console and having it on mobile, and they hired a whole separate team that created the women's side of the game. And that's fun. And people are going to play it. And anybody that says that people aren't going to play it are wrong. The Latvian league's in the game, right? The Gibraltarian league is in the game. More people are going to play women's football than play in those leagues. Maybe not Gibraltar, because everybody seems to go there to try and win the Champions League, which fair. You guys are awesome. I've had that on Save Your Saves like a bunch of times, people trying to win the Champions League out of Gibraltar. But right, you can play in the Indonesian second division. If you can play in the Indonesian second division, a lot more people watch the top women's football leagues than watch the Indonesian second division. It should be in the game. It's illogical for it to not be in the game. Boom. Full stop. It also shouldn't be the first announcement, I don't think, of this whole process, especially when we all already knew it was there, and especially when there is growing unrest about what we are being made aware of, right? What I want to know about is the new stuff, and all of the new stuff is not there. And then, of course, the second announcement is the only other thing we have any inkling about at all, which is the interface. It's the frigging panels and everything that they had wrote about in the dev blog. That's the one kind of real serious, significant progress thing that we've gotten in the previous dev blogs. And it brings us to the Steam page, where they give us quite literally 3 screenshots. Now, this is the screenshot of your team selection screen. I actually think this looks pretty dope, right? Now, granted, we are looking at 0.01% of the entire game here by looking at these 3 screens. I do think this, in terms of the team selection screen, looks solid. Presents you all the potentially usable information. You get like predicted finish and all this. Like this is a very good presentation of information, use of space, scratching all the right itches in my brain. I got no problem with it. Then we go to the squad screen. I can see how this would work. More people seem to be hating on this screen. I don't know if I necessarily get that. This is basically the whole squad stream. I'd imagine you just go and click on each individual thing to learn more about it. I obviously don't know, because this is work in progress and literally a screenshot. There is also a on the pitch section. I would imagine that has something to do with that's the tactics screen. We will see, but I don't have an issue with the way they're presenting information here. I feel like this is solid. You've got your dynamics down in the bottom corner. You also have generated faces in this bottom right corner. This is Mario Kozier-Dubry. He is a real player, but maybe his face is not loaded into the game naturally, which means, this is just a random aside, it looks like there aren't going to be any blank faces this year. They're just going to take the model for the player's face in the match engine and put it as their picture. So no more silhouettes, which sounds great. And this looks, better. We obviously, the only way you can judge new gen faces in the game is you look at 10 of them, and if any of them have any like weird shadows or backwards faces or something, then you know for sure. But no blanked out faces. That sounds great to me. And the new gen faces do look a little better, although probably will still use my new gen face pack just because I've gotten used to using it. And then the attribute screen. This is my least favorite of the 3. You can tell they're catering to mobile stuff in certain ways here, which, like, again, is not the worst thing. It just feels a little more mobilified. You've got the stars, right? Just in case the stars are too small on a smaller screen, they give you the actual number of the stars here. What I don't understand is, in the base skin, there was just always such a huge gap between the words and the numbers. Like, you could just chop that gap off, move everything over, and then have like an entirely new panel or something. The use of space is just always weird. I don't hate the panel function where like you have all these different panels and you can click on them to get more information on any of those individual things. You get the footedness of that's not always been in the main skin as well, although it's always hard to remember that sort of stuff because we all use, adjusted skins. And there is also, the key. This is great for me. I don't know if I just suffered brain damage at a certain point, but I always forget which one, like which color is the key one and which one's the preferable one. So this little key at the bottom definitely helps me out with that. But they released 3 different pictures of attributes, including one women's page and Fran Kirby, whose height is 188 centimeters, which is not how tall Fran Kirby is. So I thought that it was interesting they decided to include that in there. Because my chat on Twitch kind of noticed that immediately when we were looking through these live. But that is basically what we know. I mean, that in the dev vlogs that we talked about on stream, and I think I made a video about a couple months ago. But I've distilled this. I've gone hunting a little bit because I feel uneasy. I feel nervous. A lot of people feel frustrated. Some people even feel angry. And I think the biggest contributing factor to that is that this is supposed to be, it is billed as, by them, the biggest change in the history of Football Manager. This is the next era. And it is also the game that at this point, we know the least about over the past 5 years, right? That its announcement trailer is later, even later than the one that was coming out of the COVID pandemic, like the heart of the COVID pandemic era. The dev blogs are just telling us, of all things, the majority of things that are just being removed and then kind of introducing the concept of panels. If you are going to introduce and bill a game as, you know, this big adjustment, you got to give people more information, or they're going to start to get uncomfortable and they're going to freak out, especially for community like this one that is very insular, that is very individualistic, right? That is very used to the way things are done and loves the game the way it is. This community is always going to be more resistant to change than most gaming communities because of our love for the game, right? And because of the unique standing that this game has in the gaming sphere in the first place. So if anything, that means you should be releasing stuff even earlier to try and sate those thoughts. And until we get that information, don't pre-order the game. I have codes for the game, right? That's kind of like part of the economy of this creator stuff. But like I said on stream, I'm not going to give those to you. I am going to be the number that you can call to not pre-order, to resist the urge. Okay, and once they give us features about the game, I will make those. I will attach those codes under my YouTube videos if you feel like you like what you are seeing. But after this, there's really nothing to see, so I'm not even going to give you the codes. So I'll try to help you resist the urge. But yeah, this you know, for somebody that initially wasn't going to make a video about this, it turns out I had a lot of thoughts about it. Anyways, I'll see you guys on stream. And hopefully the game ends up being great. And there is a good logical reason that they're doing this. I'm just finding it hard to find the good logical reason.